Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're talking about some of the ridiculous loans that lending institutions are actually giving out in today's market. I think plenty of you will be shocked in today's video. Before we get into the video though, as always, if you're gonna save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And then if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Let's get into it. So on a pretty regular basis, my dealer friends will send me some deals that they are currently working on or deals that they have already finished. And you can imagine some of the deals they send me are pretty crazy. Now, there has been a recent resurgence in what are called CRC deals. This is what I've been getting sent pretty often recently. Now, CRC deals are basically deals with customers that have absolutely horrible credit. And so you can imagine the approvals they get from lending institutions can be pretty crazy out there, especially when it comes to the interest rate. And that's what I want to kind of go over in today's video. So the deal that I'm going to use as an example in today's video was on a brand new car. I'm not going to name what car it is, but the car brand new has a price of about $20,000. And in this particular deal, the person put down about $2,500 as, or not $2,500, sorry, $3,500 as their down payment. So that means that on this particular deal, this person was financing $17,500 roughly. Now, they got approved for an interest rate of 29.71% for 72 months, which put their monthly payment at $523.79 per month. And so this person was literally put in a situation where after their down payment and everything, they are still going to be spending almost as much money on finance charge as what they spent on the car and taxes and everything on top of the car. I mean, it's actually pretty equal in this situation. They're spending just over $20,000 on the car, and they're spending just over $20,000 in finance charges. And if you're wondering what this looks like on a year-to-year basis, I actually have this little chart pulled up here on a finance calculator, so you guys can freeze the frame if you want to read through that, but I'll go through it anyways. So in the first year, they're going to be paying over $5,000 in interest and only $1,200 towards the actual principal of the car. So after year one, they're going to go from owing $17,500 on the car to owing $16,200 on the car. Year two, $4,600 in interest, $1,600 in principal. Year three, $4,000 in interest, $2,200 in principal. Year four, $3,200 in interest, $2,900 in principal. Year five, $2,200 in interest, and then $4,000 in principal. So that's the first year where things flip-flop, where they're paying more in principal than interest, and that's almost the end of the loan. And then the last year, they'll be paying $900 in interest and $5,300 in principal. And if you're wondering what the balance is, again, at the end of year one, $16,200, year two, $14,600, year three, $12,300, year four, $9,300, and then year five, $5,300, and then obviously year six, that's when it's paid off, so there's going to be a $0 balance at the end. And so let's kind of talk about this. So it doesn't take a math genius to realize that this is a really stupid situation that someone put themselves in. They are literally paying for this car 2 times over because of how much interest they are paying on the car. But again, this is not an isolated incident. This happens every single day, not only with new cars like this situation, but also with used cars as well, where people that have horrible credit go in and their mentality is they just want to leave with the car. They don't care what happens as long as they can leave with the car and as long as they can afford the monthly payment or think they can afford the monthly payment, then they are good to go. And I don't think that I really need to dive too deep into why you probably shouldn't do this. But what I do want to say is it looks like this trend is going to just continue to happen more and more as time goes on, at least in this current market, because we have a market where affordability is at an all-time low, and obviously we have a lot of economic tightening happening. So we're going to have more and more people with bad credit that are just looking for transportation that are going to be entering into these loans that have ridiculously high interest rates, to where, again, they are literally going to be paying about as much in interest as what they paid for the car itself. And the worst part about this situation, aside from paying so much in interest, is that if that person wanted to, for some reason, get out of that loan because they're like, you know what, I made a bad decision, they're screwed, because what's going to happen is they're going to be upside down every single year. If we quickly pull up that chart that goes over how much they'll owe at the end of every single year with this car, then we'll see that this person will be upside down for the entire duration of the loan. So again, this car was about $20,000 brand new. At the end of the first year, they're going to have a loan balance of just over $16,000. Now, the depreciation curve on this particular car is pretty aggressive. And so at the end of the first year, if they wanted to trade this car into a dealer would probably be willing to pay them $12,000, maybe $13,000, because the dealer would be able to sell the car for maybe $15,000, maybe $16,000. So they'd be a few $1,000s upside down. At the end of the second year, again, owing $14,600, the car is going to depreciate even more. It's probably going to be like a $9,000, $10,000 car at that point. And let's, fast forward to year 4, where they owe $9,300 on the car. 4-year-old car, let's say that they drive, again, an average of, 10, maybe 12,000 miles per year. So they're going to have 40 to 50,000 miles roughly on the car. Well, at that point with this particular type of car, I mean, it's probably going to be close to that $9,000 amount, maybe a little bit less. And so that would be the point where they would finally be breaking even. And that's more than halfway through the loan. And this is on a car that has like what I call a depreciation cap, because it's already so cheap brand new that it can only go so low with the used price. And I do want to emphasize that although this situation is pretty devastating for the person that's going to enter into this loan, if they ever want to get out of the car before it's paid off, I also want to emphasize the fact that this is not as bad as it could be because of how affordable this car is brand new. Again, about $20,000. If you applied that same interest rate and that same loan term to a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 car, because of the larger dollar amount, I mean, it would just be absolutely catastrophic. And another thing to emphasize is, with these more expensive vehicles, even if you apply the same depreciation rate to them, obviously the money amounts are going to be larger. But typically with these more expensive vehicles, they will not only have obviously larger depreciation from a money perspective, but usually the percentages are larger. Because again, with the more affordable cars, they usually get capped out at a certain point where they just don't really get any cheaper because they're already so cheap already. Whereas again, with the $50,000, $60,000 car, a lot of times they have to go all the way down to the prices where these other, more affordable cars are at. And so you can imagine, if someone took out a loan at about 30% APR for 72 months on a $60,000 car that's worth, $10,000 at the end of the loan term, like just how much money they would have lost in that situation. I mean, again, we're doing 2x on it, and so they would have paid $120,000 for a car that's now worth $10,000. I mean, crazy when you think about it. So in closing, although there has been a lot of credit tightening over the last few months, there are still some lending institutions that are willing to take on these super high risk loans. And, some of them will pay off, but I'm sure a lot of them will just completely burn these lending institutions. It'll increase the rate of repossessions that we've already been seeing increase over the last few months. And so, yeah, it's just probably going to make this whole situation an even bigger mess than it already is. And so it's kind of like these lending institutions are almost like shooting themselves in the feet. But with that being said, I know there's a lot of people are going to comment that this is predatory lending and that lending institutions and dealerships should be held liable for this. And well, I'm not the person to make that decision. But what I do want to say is that I feel like the party that should be held accountable for this is the person that decided to sign the contract stating that they are okay with paying almost 30% APR for the next 72 months. Yes, lending institutions and dealers are the ones that are making this whole situation possible, but at the end of the day, it's an adult deciding to sign the loan, right? Because if you don't know, you cannot legally buy a car from a dealership unless you are an adult, unless you're 18 years or older. And so, again, I do believe in education so that people don't do stupid stuff like this. That's why I make videos like this. But I also believe in people making their own choices. And so this person decided to make the choice of signing on with this loan. And so now they have to live with that choice in the form of paying $40,000 for a $20,000 car that will eventually be worth next to nothing by the end of the time that loan is over. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this whole situation. Let me know what you think should be done to, I guess, reduce this type of lending where we have super high APR on cars that will most likely get repossessed in the near future. I'll see ya.